Hi, I'm Alan Murdoch. For the past 20 years, I've been buying, fixing, and selling properties right here in Southern Arizona. And I want to buy your property. Whether it's a house, apartment, commercial building, or vacant land, regardless of the condition or the situation, I want to talk to you. When you sell to me, I pay cash and it's hassle-free. No repairs, no closing costs, and no commissions. If you have a property you don't want to deal with and you want a quick solution, call, text, or visit selltoalan.com. Again, that's selltoalan.com.
Discover the power of 88 Crime, where your anonymous tips are rewarded with cash. When you call in anonymously with the tip, you are given a code. With the code and a password, you can walk into a bank and redeem your reward anonymously. If your anonymous tip results in a felony arrest, you can claim up to $2,500 cash reward. Let's stop the silence on crime and strive for a safer community. For more information, please visit 88crime.org or call 88crime.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
We can print anything on our soft vanilla logo cookies. We deliver them and other sweet treats locally. We are located at 4249 West Ina Road, Suite 121. Call us, 520-300-1131. We bake smiles.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
Your favorite radio just got bigger, bolder, and better connected. Live the Dream Media is revolutionizing how you stay tuned in. With our explosive growth in online radio and our brand new mobile app, your entertainment goes wherever you do. Stream your favorite shows, discover new hits, and connect with audiences across the digital landscape, all at your fingertips. Advertisers don't miss out. Join our expanding digital network and reach engaged listeners across platforms. Download the Live the Dream Media app today and experience radio reimagined.
All right, welcome to episode 4 of Backseat Thriver.
Good morning. Woo-hoo. They kept us around.
They did. We're here for 4. We'll see how many more, We'll keep it up. All right, so today's topic, I'm so excited about this.
I am too.
When you had brought this up and said, okay, what about this one? And kind of started going into some of the details, I'm like, oh, there is so much that we can do with this. So today we are talking about reinventing yourself. And do you want to give a little backstory on what we're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are, if you've followed us so far, this is our episode number 4. So we started off with our intro. Then we started off with, some of the events in our life, our midlife crisis, our midlife events, and, how there are specific areas within our life that, change comes. Mm-hmm. And then we had our ego, right? So we had our ego podcast. It's really opening up the door to who are we, and how do we reflect on things, and how do we react to things, mm-hmm. and some of the areas that open up for conversation and open up for self-reflection and change. And now we're here today, kind of closing that whole loop. And, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. What are some of these areas that we've been discussing, and how do we implement, if we want to make change, or if we're going through that crisis, or if we're going through that event?
Or if you're thinking about going through it, right? You're thinking about some big change in your life, right? It kind of starts with that little planting that seed, and then you got to get to that point.
And so here we are. So, whether it's reinventing yourself, mm-hmm. refreshing, some of the areas that may have been a little dull mm-hmm. in the past, here we are.
Yep.
Here we are.
So you kind of see this theme that we have, right? For our first, we'll call this the first quarter of our podcast, really talking a lot about growth and reflection and becoming a better version of yourself. And while we're not necessarily experts on that, I think that we've certainly got a lot of life experience, and we've seen it, whether if not us, everyone sees people going through absolute meltdowns or absolute successes. And it's pretty cool to take all of that in and say, okay, how can I apply this to my own life? And how can I check in with myself and make sure, am I on the right path? So you don't maybe hit that point of midlife and go, I hate everything that I've done. So there's a million places that we can start. But one of the things that you and I were talking about is that 7-year cycle. And so I don't know if that's maybe kind of a fun place to talk about, where in life, there's actual research that shows that this 7-year itch, and we're not even necessarily talking about marriages, right? This could be so many things, but this 7-year cycle, it's really natural for you to want to look back and go, I don't know if I like what I see, and I might want to do something different here.
Yep.
What do you think about this
Absolutely.
7-year cycle, itch, whatever you want to call it?
I think there's some truth to it. I think there's some truth to the 7-year itch. I think there's truth to the 10-year itch. And like you said, this isn't necessarily your marital relationship. This can be a job. This can be, a hobby. This can be, whether or not you're an athlete or you're a parent, or, whatever it may be. It, like you said, it's that shedding of the skin, or it's something along those lines within those increments of time. And those, like you mentioned, there is science behind that. There are theories behind that. That timeline. So I think, what we're going to be discussing today and sharing some of our stories and some of the research that we found and things along those lines is regardless of that timeline, there are areas of opportunity for us to really look back. Are we going down the path that we want to go down? Are we making the right decisions, whether that's with your hairstylist or your therapist?
Right. And I think that's what I love about this so much. We could be talking about the smallest little thing, and we'll get into this more in a little bit, but how those small things build into really big things right before your eyes. You may not even be expecting this full change at the end. You may have just start by wanting to chop your hair off, right? Like there's one little thing. And I love this because I feel like so many people make excuses for, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the energy. Those are all incredibly valid, but we're also not talking about things that hit all of, right? It could be the smallest thing that doesn't take a lot of time, money, or energy, right?
Yep.
So this really can apply to anybody.
So tell us a little bit about your story and what you were, when we were discussing this, what were some of the things that just really came top of mind to you?
Well, so I think, for myself, there's looking back really even at my last, say, 7 years, right? I've done so much up and down, and I've hit some rock bottoms and I've hit some really great highs. And so I think for myself, I was kind of on this path of destruction, I think is fair to say, for myself, and making really bad choices and just kind of being at the point, I think, where I was coming out of my own skin and just not liking myself so much and just wanting to escape myself more than anyone. And so when you kind of look back and you see, you have that moment of, okay, I've sort of left a trail of hurt here. This is not the person that I want to be. This is not who I want to be. And it sort of starts with that little planting of a seed of, okay, I know that I can do better. I know that I can be better. And I think the most important thing that I learned for myself, and that I would say to anybody who is looking to make a tiny change, a huge change, you have to be in the right mindset. If you are not in the place where you have accepted your failures and accepted, this is where I am right now, and that real reality check of, this is who I am and where I am, and it's not where I want to be, and I'm ready to start going forward, that mindset of embracing growth, you can't start without that. Like that is, nothing can happen until you have really prepared yourself for what that's going to look like. And I think it would be really foolish to say or have anybody think that when you start down this path, you're going to fail. I mean, you are going to fall down so many times. And I think that the most I said this to my husband last night with our Halloween costumes, and he was a little sideways that my costume was really good and his was maybe not as good. And I was like, you know what? Yes, your fake beard and mustache look ridiculous, but some of the fun is in the failure, right? Like
embrace it,
right?
Embrace
and so that's part of the journey is you cannot expect that things are just gonna change. And so
I like that you said that change, and regardless of where it is, you're sharing with us right now, a very personal, a very serious, an event that may happen. But what I like that you just said is that it's a journey. It's not just a destination, and it is going to take time, and you are going to learn along the way. And there will be failures, there will be success, and embrace those fails, and really, be proud of yourself with those successes.
Yeah,
I think that's huge. But I like how you're sharing with us the, how you self-identified, how you saw, all right, this is a destructive behavior, and how am I going to to come out of this better? And I'd love for you to share with us some of those tips that you implemented along the way to kind of those baby steps in getting you to this point.
Yeah. Well, so it's funny because when I was doing some research and writing for this episode, I was really looking at a lot of my past. And I think that anybody can sit where they are right now and reflect on the last few years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, and look at the decisions they've made that they regret and kind of figure out, okay, what did I learn from that and how can I grow and do better from that? And I think that it's so important to just have those check-ins with yourself of, am I continuing to push to be where I want to be? And so I think, first of all, reflecting, right? Like you've got to just take some time to check in with yourself and say, how am I feeling? How am I doing? Where's my head at? How are the people around me? How am I impacting my family and friends and loved ones? And is it in the positive way that I want to be? Am I being the mom that I want to be? Am I being the friend that I want to be? All of those things, I think spending some serious time and being so honest with yourself. And Bridget, is that not the hardest part, to look in that mirror and be so honest? Because I have made every excuse for myself for a million different reasons, right? But when you have that moment, when you are face to face with yourself and you can't lie to yourself, and that is some scary stuff right there.
It really is.
It really is.
It really is. And I'm thinking about, you're taking it down a serious path, and I'm thinking, I probably shouldn't have cut bangs. I'm looking at myself in the mirror and saying that was a really bad idea. That was a mistake. But joking aside, I think that having that courage to look at yourself and say, all right, it's time for change.
Yeah.
Or having that courage to look at yourself and say, I did really good. I did really good for that.
Equally as important and equally as difficult to pat yourself on the back and say, you did it.
You did it. And I think, there's I'm a little jealous here. So for some of our listeners that don't know Christina's path here, she has recently made this amazing change in her life here from career woman to
stay-at-home mom.
Exactly. And
I gave myself the title of Director of Household Operations. I think that sounds pretty good.
I love
Director of Ops.
I ask my husband all the time, so how about now? How about now? You ready for a housewife? I promise I'll iron your clothes. I'll make you lunch I'll make you lunch before you go to work. Honey, we have 4 kids. No, we got to pay for college.
Right.
No, this is not happening yet. But that took a lot of cojones.
That was a very scary decision. That was so much of my identity. And it was fun talking about our ego podcast last week because, it's only been a few months since I quit my job. And I had a pretty intense job, and you have a very intense job, and it's constantly performing, constantly being on, and it is a very strange change of pace. But when I'm, meeting back with colleagues or going to lunch and people are asking, do you miss it? My look in the mirror answer is my ego misses it. I felt really important, and I was impacting people on a daily basis in a way that felt so good for me. It was so fulfilling to help people the way that I got to help people and do the really cool things that I got to do working in a hospital with pediatric cancer patients, with big athletics contracts, with researchers, with the most brilliant scientists. It fed something in me where every day I would come home and no matter what else happened, it was like, I did something really big today. And that's a lot of ego, and so to go to a place where now people are looking at me going, okay, well, what's for dinner? And I can't find any clean underwear. Where are they? And I'm looking around like, yeah, where are they?
Cheese again? Seriously?
Right? Do you know how to cook anything?
What do you do all day?
What do you do all day? I'm like, stuff and things. Okay, I'm very busy. Yeah, doing what? Go to your room. I don't know, but it's weird. It's very weird, and very tied up into the ego, which I think is equally interesting to look at and reflect on. But I definitely feel like I've taken on a more important and much harder job in a very different way. But just the relationship with my son, it feels different. I know that I made the right decision because
you're not as stressed.
Yeah. And when I pick him up from school, it's just still so fun. Like, hey, Mom, what are we doing? And
it's not picking him up from school and shh, I'm on a call.
Exactly.
Be quiet. Hold on, we'll get to you.
Yes.
And it's not the stressful balance.
Mm-hmm.
It's just balance.
Mm-hmm.
And you have that focus that you didn't have before. But that takes time. Like getting comfortable in your own four walls at home takes time.
It really does.
And to not want to buy everything, to go to Target and every other store because you're bored and you got to fill your time.
You got to fill it with something.
You got to fill it with something.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about some of those practical tips, like how it's funny because, a lot of people that are probably listening are like, really? You had to transition to work from home?
Right.
Or you had to transition to be a housewife?
Oh, it must
Come
be so
on.
hard. Oh.
But it does.
But it is.
It's a shift.
It is.
It's a definite shift of, it's a different focus. It's different tasks. I was a stay-at-home mom for almost 6 years, and I think that was probably the most stressful time of my life. It's just a different type of priority. It's a different type of stressor. And I think there should be some sort of compensation for housewives.
No kidding.
For all this stuff. We need to write that on a W-2 somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think it is, whether you're a housewife or, a house husband. I don't know what the
I like that.
the coin term for that is, but there's a lot of work. You are, if you have children, you are the shuttle, you are the taxi. If you have kids in after school sports, you are timing dinners, you are,
Absolutely.
picking them up from school, making sure that this amount of time that they get their snack and they get their homework done, because you have the next 45 minutes that you have to commute, and then they're going to be at practice, and then you have to go home, hurry up and make dinner and have it ready in the car, because by the time they get home, it's 9:30 and they're like 10 years old.
Forget the 10-year-old. How about me? I'm exhausted. I wanted to be in bed an hour ago, and I'm still out driving. So
you're still out driving.
Yes.
So at one point, we had 4 kids, 5 sports.
Oh my gosh.
And we had a Nissan Quest minivan.
Oh my gosh.
And,
you rock. I loved when you would pick us up in the minivan.
Oh man, that thing was sharp. I'd throw on some movies. I can't tell you how many times we watched Percy Jackson, but we'll get back to that in just a minute right after this commercial break.
Hi, I'm Alan Murdoch. For the past 20 years, I've been buying, fixing, and selling properties right here in Southern Arizona. And I want to buy your property. Whether it's a house, apartment, commercial building, or vacant land, regardless of the condition or the situation, I want to talk to you. When you sell to me, I pay cash and it's hassle-free. No repairs, no closing costs, and no commissions. If you have a property you don't want to deal with and you want a quick solution, call, text, or visit selltalon.com. Again, that's selltalon.com.
Discover the power of 88 Crime, where your anonymous tips are rewarded with cash. When you call in anonymously with the tip, you are given a code. With the code and a password, you can walk into a bank and redeem your reward anonymously. If your anonymous tip results in a felony arrest, you can claim up to $2,500 cash reward. Let's stop the silence on crime and strive for a safer community. For more information, please visit 88crime.org or call 88crime.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
We can print anything on our soft vanilla logo cookies. We deliver them and other sweet treats locally. We are located at 4249 West Ina Road, Suite 121. Call us 520-300-1131. We bake smiles.
Copper Creek Cookies, Copper Creek Cookies, coppercreekcookies.net.
Your favorite radio just got bigger, bolder, and better connected. Live the Dream Media is revolutionizing how you stay tuned in. With our explosive growth in online radio and our brand new mobile app, your entertainment goes wherever you do. Stream your favorite shows, discover new hits, and connect with audiences across the digital landscape, all at your fingertips. Advertisers don't miss out. Join our expanding digital network and reach engaged listeners across platforms. Download the Live the Dream Media app today and experience radio reimagined.
All right, we're back.
We are back. So I was sharing with you all my minivan story, my Nissan Quest. Oh, she was my baby. So when I had her for almost 10 years, and before that, I had a Yukon, and I loved that thing. That was just it was a regal car. And so when my husband and I, when we came together and we Brady bunched and we brought our kids together, we're like, oh, okay, we need something that's a little bit better on gas mileage, has a little more room, because if we want to bring a friend or two friends. So we end up, going shopping, and I was so against a minivan. I was like, I am too young for a minivan. I can't do this. But then I sat in this car and it just wrapped me, and I loved it. It was a smooth ride. And then my kids just had push button, so it was a push button, slide in, slide out. You're not having to worry about your kids, flinging the door open, and you're parking too close and you've got like 5 kids flying out of your car.
That's true. Yeah.
And they can get themselves in and out of their seats, and they just push the button. They don't have to reach out, and it's not a big ordeal. And remember how in one of our other podcasts I said I'm, super scared and freaked out, and my kids better hurry up and get in the car. This was one of those speedy vehicles that everybody could get in. But, so she helped me raise my kids. We're driving around town. I have hot plates in the car, and I'm picking up my kids from practice, and they're eating on the way home, because it was anywhere from a 30-minute commute, depending on what area of town practice was at, or a game, or whatever it may be. And I think, like I was saying, I listened to Percy Jackson for about 2 years and probably saw it for the first time about a year ago. And I'm like, I know every part of this movie. I've never even seen it, because the kids were watching in the background. But it was, so when we're talking about this reinventing, this refresh, all of that, about 3 years ago, we traded it in for a big girl car, and I cried. I
bet.
I cried. I was like, I have never been emotionally attached to things. And this car helped me get through, raising my kids. And, and we're driving away. I'm like, I just really love that van. The kids are like, you are nuts.
Yeah.
But it was that time where we only had one kid, left at home that didn't have a driver's license. Everybody else was driving themselves. So I was like, all right, I don't need this vehicle anymore. It's just too much. But it really was. It was one of those moments of growth. Like, okay, and every time I think of growth and reinventing, we're not talking about discarding everything. We're not saying leave your husband, move to Europe and leave everything behind. No, it's personal growth. It's that it's shedding that old skin. You're still that person. You're still the core of you is still there, but you're getting rid of the things that you don't need anymore.
Well, and that's the quote. There was this beautiful article, and it was talking about reinvention is not changing yourself. It is realigning yourself to your values and checking in to make sure, am I still on track with what I believe in? And I think it's so important what you're saying.
Yeah, it's are you on track with what you believe in? Have you been ignoring these areas for so long that, it's time to refresh it. It's time to, reinvigorate, that area of your life. Or like we were saying earlier, is this a behavior that is inappropriate? Or is this a behavior that's destructive? Okay, now here comes the reinvention.
Right.
And there's so much to that, but getting to that point takes a lot of courage.
It does. It does. And so, it's funny, this is totally unscripted. You went off about the minivan, and I'm dying and I'm laughing inside. My parents tried so hard to get me to buy a minivan. And I was like, no, not happening. My mom cut an article out of the newspaper and brought it to my house and was like, look at what the newspaper is saying about how functional and practical and great minivans are. You should consider it. And my dad was like, absolutely. And I'm like, absolutely not. So, there's no in between.
I didn't
You're
pay
not
all
warm.
this money for Botox so I can look like an old lady in a minivan. Ain't happening.
You're not feeling warm about a minivan. You either love it or you hate it. There is no in between.
Absolutely. And I hated it until I drove it. And I was like, I love those. Yeah.
Okay. So the perfect segue of the minivan thing. So we're talking about sort of this reinvention, and we're talking about how much courage it takes when you really look in that mirror and say, okay, something's got to change here. And so you're reflecting on that. You're looking at patterns that no longer serve you. And that can include friendships, and that's really hard, right? So you reflect, you identify the patterns, and then you make the changes. You've got to really think about this before making those changes, setting those goals, and embracing that growth. And so there's this minivan analogy that talks about you've got your person in your front seat, you've got the person in the middle seat, and you've got the person in the back seat, people in the back seats, whatever it looks like. And you talked about, we're not saying reinventing yourself means get rid of everything, quit your job, move away, quit your relationships, whatever that looks like. But there's sacrifices that have to be made. When you're truly serious about making a positive change in your life, there's people who can't be in your front seat anymore. Yeah. They might need to move to the second row. They might need to move to the back row. Doesn't mean you have to drop them. But if we're
maybe the U-Haul trailer behind.
Maybe exactly, right? Maybe the roof rack.
Maybe the roof rack.
But if you're thinking, I've got to stop drinking, you guess what? Some of those relationships.
I've been meaning to talk to you about that, Christina.
That'll be another episode. Ha ha. Ha ha. So we've, that's now you made me laugh and I forgot what I was talking about.
Thanks, Raul. Man. Thanks, man. That was a good one.
So,
the minivan
the
analogy.
Friendships, you cannot expect that you can make reasonable changes if you don't change who you're surrounding yourself with too. And I think that's why that's a really important thing to look at. Who's in your corner and who are you spending a lot of your time with, and who needs to take a seat in the back. So that's really hard, because with growth comes so much change.
It does.
And you have to be willing to do that.
And I think a lot of us, when we're finally reflecting on this time, you feel that that it's almost you've gone past that line of who are my friends?
Mm-hmm.
How do I make new ones?
Mm-hmm.
Who are the ones? Because for years, for us, our friends were our kids' parents.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not our kids, friends' parents. And you know, you sit the sideline with these parents for hours on end, and you know, you engage with them because your life is their life, and having those types of relationships and kind of, all right, who do we hang out with after the games?
Mm-hmm.
Who do we hang out with after that? But like you said, you know, there are certain phases of your life where, you know, where you and I, we might not do a holiday party together or a Halloween together because you're still trick-or-treating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my kids are stealing your kid's candy bag.
Right.
They're really not. My kids are actually really good. But no, it's those types of things where you understand that, all right, these are the friends for these situations. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. They don't need to be your best friend all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't have to still continue that type of relationship with them all the time. You know, me and you know, one of my closest friends, we can go months without talking and pick up where we left off. And
I
you know,
love that so much. I have friends like that.
So
and
important.
It's so peaceful to just not feel that guilt of, I had lunch with a girlfriend who I hadn't seen in way too long. And it was just, you know, when you get together and there's either, it goes one of two ways, right? There's bitterness on one side and resentment of like, you haven't been a good friend to me, or you can just realize that life is going in so many seasons and everybody is doing their best, and you can just pick right up where you left off, and that feels so good.
And it almost feels like word vomit.
Yeah,
like you guys can't get enough out.
Where do we start?
Mm-hmm. And all these things have been happening over the last,
Mm-hmm.
you know, half a year, but you're at different phases in your life,
Mm-hmm.
so you're not going to pick up the phone, or you're not going to call each other every single day, and that's where I feel that embrace it,
Mm-hmm.
embrace that difference, embrace that change,
Mm-hmm.
and. You know, as we were talking about your big change in going from, you know, a career mom to a stay-at-home mom, you know, that's a huge change.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel, you know, we're doing things in this space, you know, we're doing something new that's for us, you know, doing this podcast and having this time for us. But I'm looking at this next phase in my life and being an empty nester. And that's really I'm starting this reflection path now, because I know this time next year is going to be, you know, is going to be a really difficult time.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get to that point successfully, and I don't want to go down that path of depression and who am I? And I was sharing this with you earlier. You know, I have been a mom and I've had a child in my life since I was 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And my ex-husband, he had a 2-year-old when I met him at 19 years old. And I was instant mom and caring for his son and then having my own children. And so when I look at my reflection here, I had 19 years on my own
Mm-hmm.
as me. You know, where were you at when you were 19?
Mm-hmm.
And now I've had the last...
Certainly not raising a kid.
Certainly not raising a kid. And that scares me to this day, you know, thinking of my kids at 19, you know, my daughter's 19, like if she was raising a child, wow.
Yeah.
No, she's not ready for that.
Yeah.
And then the last 27 years, I've been a mom. So a year from now, it's just going to be me and my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I without that mom status, without a kid at home, without having to worry about, you know, obviously I always worry about my children, but, you know, without having to care for somebody,
Yeah.
you know, other than myself and my husband and my dogger, you know, my
Right.
dog.
Right.
But we're looking at that and it's like, what now, you know, and we're excited. We're excited to start dating and traveling.
Not
and
other people, right?
No.
Okay. Wasn't sure which direction we're going with that. That maybe we're in the 7-year cycle here.
No, definitely not the 7-year cycle.
Oh my gosh, Bridget, we have so much. We have got about 15 minutes left. We're going to keep packing this in. So keep going. I love this conversation.
Absolutely. But it's exciting. It's exciting, that we're doing, that my husband and I, we have something to look forward to, and that this is going to be a new change. And that's where, we're not reinventing ourselves, but we're going to refresh our life.
Yeah.
We're going to start dating. We're going to start traveling. And whether that's to go see our kids, maybe, maybe it's we've got kiddos all over the United States. So it's going to be really exciting. But just having that opportunity of who are we together with, without our kids is amazing.
Well, and I think something that you just said that is so important, that you said we're excited. That I think is such a roadblock for so many people. And I think one of the ways that you can set yourself up for success on this is to be aware of that change. Not to be aware of the change, to be aware of that resistance and that fear a little bit. If you're sitting here and you're dreading it and it's all you can think about and it's giving you anxiety and all of that, you're not going to do well. But the fact that you're sitting here saying we're preparing ourselves and we're looking forward to it is going to help your transition so much more. And I think as you're looking to reinvent, refresh yourself, whatever that is, mind, body, spirit, be really conscious of the resistance, because I really believe that means you're on the right track. If you feel like this is not something I want to do, it's kind of shaking you to your core, but your brain is telling you that that's something that you want to do, you're doing it. And there was this really beautiful quote that talked about, the resist, like nothing is easy. And if you're not ready to grow and blossom, you're not going to get any of the benefit from it. And so I just think that what you just said, the resistance, it's listening to your gut, it's listening to your instinct, and being really aware of that, I think is really critical for success. So
I agree.
Bravo to you.
I agree. And I'm lucky, I'm lucky that I have a partner to do this, to go on this journey with. But there's a lot of us that don't. I have quite a few girlfriends that are single moms and that are, our kiddos are getting ready to graduate together, and they're like, what am I going to do without my kid? What am I going to do in this new space? How am I going to take care of, I mean, you always take care of yourself, but how am I going to take this new step, and I'm going to come home to a quiet house and I'm going to be alone? And that's really scary. That's a really scary reality for a lot of my girlfriends out there. And I've got, one of my friends that, as soon as her kiddo graduates, they're going to Vegas. She's like, I've got to get out of here. I've got to leave town and I'm going to start over fresh. And I think that takes a lot of courage. Yeah. That takes a lot of courage.
It does.
And to be able to say, all right, this is where I want to go. This is going to be my next phase. And, she's going back to school. She's putting herself through a master's program. So she's thinking of these ways to, to really grow in her own skin. And I think that is absolutely amazing. And to be able to have that courage that, and not everybody, has the financial means to move or the financial means to put them through school. And it can be anything as large as moving across the country in order to make this change and to feel, invigorated or refreshed or reinvented. Or it can be something as simple as, all right, I'm going to declutter, because when you have all of that time, that space, those memories, you have all of that, a lot of times we collect too much. We collect too much, then it can be overwhelming. And, and just take the time.
Those small things, right?
Take the time.
So something you're saying about your friend, again, setting yourself up for success, but I think something that's really important for everyone to know and just to be aware of, your brain is always going to choose that familiar chaos versus the unfamiliar, right? So whether or not you know you're making poor decisions or you're in a place that you don't want to be, your brain is going to tell you, it's okay, stay here, stay in this, because we know what this feels like. We know what to expect. We know how to protect ourselves. You lunge us out there into a life-changing something, and again, this could be cutting your hair, decluttering your home, or a big life change, but your body is going to resort to stick with what we know. And that's why you have to be so brave in these choices. And whether you cut bangs and it was a terrible decision.
I'm going bangs.
Which usually it is, though. My little sister, she can pull off bangs. I think she's one of the only people, well, I'm sure that's not true, but she looks amazing with bangs. And I've done that before, and the reaction was not so good.
I'm going to go bangs and platinum blonde.
I like
she
it.
Reinvigorated, or is this just a bad decision?
What, we'll find out eventually, right? So whatever decision that you're making, recognize that resistance, recognize the fact that your default is going to be safety, and how do you protect yourself? And so you've got to make your choices with that knowledge, knowing I can heal myself better, I can make better choices, knowing that it's okay. I may feel this internal conflict. Keep going.
Keep going.
You're on the right track. Keep going.
I love it.
I love it too.
No, I think it's good. There was, when we were looking up, when we were doing our research, there is a really powerful quote by, hold on, I'm going to pull it up because I feel it's important. A person who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new.
Yes.
That's Albert Einstein.
So much.
Doesn't get better than that.
Okay, well, you can't argue with him.
You can't argue with the Albert. But it is. It's, in order to be successful, you have to fail. Mm-hmm. In order to understand that you want to succeed, and in order to overcome that fear, you have to fail. Mm-hmm. And it can be as little as, ooh, that was a bad choice in lipstick color, mm-hmm. or that was a bad choice in a partner. Mm-hmm. It can be as profound or as minute as whatever the issue or whatever the change is that you're wanting to make. Mm-hmm. And I think, as we're talking about the minute changes, baby steps. Mm-hmm. You don't have to do an entire refresh of a room, or you don't have to, if you have the means and the money, go ahead, redecorate your whole house. But, something to just liven it up, or something that's just a little bit of change, change out a photo, change out, buy a couple of plants, mm-hmm. change your lipstick. Put a couple of highlights in your hair.
Well, and you know what's so fun about what you're saying about these very small, obtainable little goals is, and what I'm about to say is the most obvious statement ever, right? But little changes roll down into big changes. And so here's just a stupid example. My eyelashes are so short, right? And I'm like staring in the mirror. I'm like, I want longer eyelashes, but I want them now, right? And mm-hmm. we live in this culture of instant gratification. If I can't have this right now, forget it. And I'm so guilty of that. That is, if I can't have something on my doorstep today, I don't really need it, right? And so I put some little serum on my eyelash that you had suggested. And it's like I forget that I was even doing it. But after a couple of weeks, I woke up one morning and I was like, oh, hello, eyelashes, right? And then I'm like, well, now I'd like to go to church. Or now it's these little snowball effects of once you start feeling good, whatever it is.
To church. That's a big transition.
It's a bit of a jump, okay? But, there was a few things in between. But the point being is, once you see one little positive outcome, it gives you the confidence. Okay, maybe I can move on to the next thing. So
Be patient with yourself.
Be patient. And that is so hard because we don't live in a world where patience is a virtue anymore. You know, it's everything. I want it now. And most of the times you can get it now. Click my Target app. I'm going to drive up in 2 hours and have everything that I just ordered. I want something from a random accessory for a Halloween costume. Thank you, Amazon. I'll see you between 2 and 5 today. Exactly. You know, so we're not built anymore to be patient for these things. And the failure, we talked so much about the failure. We have to just slow down. We're going to fail along the way, and nothing that is worth doing is going to be worth it if you are done in 24 hours. And then now you're like, okay, now what?
And I think it's important that, you know, as you're talking about instant gratification, this is our culture, instant gratification. If I'm feeling old, I get Botox. My lips don't look like like everybody on TV, I'm going to get filler. Mm-hmm. I don't like my hair, I'm getting a color. I think that, you know, where we have been successful in these spaces and in these transitions, it's all about setting that obtainable goal, working to that goal, and being okay if you stumble along the way.
Yeah.
Being, like we were saying, you know, it's okay if you mess up. It's okay if you don't like it. Just keep going. Keep going. And I think that it's really important for you to kind of have that vision. Where are you wanting to change, and where are you wanting to go? And, you know, and plan it out. Plan it out, journal it out, write it out, talk to a friend about it. Hey, this is what I'm wanting to do. You know, keep me honest, you know, help me get there. If I start complaining, or, you know, if I'm telling you that I'm going to work out every day, which I don't, and I start texting you memes for the next 2 hours when I was supposed to be at the gym, you know, call me, keep me honest. But I think that,
you know, don't ask me for help on that one, because I'll be right there with you. Like, yes, let's skip that. What else can we use to distract ourselves?
Exactly. Yep. We need that. We need that encouragement. So, you know, surround yourself, like you were saying, you know, with our friends. You know, some are going to be in the front seat, some are going to be in the back seat, and surround yourself with people that are going to encourage you and help you be that better you. Mm-hmm. That's why we're here today.
That's why we're here. That's why we are talking about this reinvention. So I think to kind of sum up what we've talked about the reflection, super important, identifying patterns that don't serve you. If you're trying to grow, you have to be honest enough with yourself to look back and say, this no longer does what I need it to do. This no longer, it serves a purpose in my life and is bringing me down a little bit. And that really starts by looking in the mirror, right? So we've got that. Then setting the goals, making the changes, and forgive yourself for the things that are done, right? If you can't go back and make any changes, you have to work on forgiving yourself. I think with a lot of people trying to reinvent themselves, you know, they're trying to escape this person that they were. They're trying to escape things they've done. You have to forgive yourself. And that's right up there with the courage that it takes to take that big first step in making a new decision. But this quote that I read, I thought was so spot on for what we're talking about. And it's, fear doesn't prevent death. Fear prevents life. So live, you know, all
That's
of
powerful.
This time that we're spending on things that don't serve us, that fear of not taking the next step or not making that small change, you're just wasting life. Yeah. And I don't know who needs to hear that, but it is a painful lesson, and it's a beautiful lesson.
I love that. And I'd love to hear from our listeners. You know, I'd love to hear you guys share your stories with us. You know, what really worked? What was really impactful? What were some of the steps that you took in order to grow into that next space? I would love to see some of the photos of failure of those hairdos that came through.
Yes, send them in.
Some of those. But it's, we can joke in this space and be very serious, but I think, like we were saying, change can be anything from, a life change or a physical change or an emotional change, a spiritual change. And it can be a refresh.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you've had, maybe you grew up, in the church or in a faith of some sort, and, you've strayed for a little while, and this is your time to get back in it. Or maybe, when we look at the holidays and, a lot of us look back at our diet and exercise, maybe we've strayed from that. Let's refresh it and, get back into healthy habits.
Absolutely.
I think it's really important. And I think a big piece of that is just like you started the conversation's reflection. It's the reflection of who am I? What do I want to do? What is that change that I want to implement? Anything from a new plant to a new house.
Just don't call us if you cut bangs and it was a terrible decision.
No,
We're
call
sorry.
us. Yes, please call us.
So Bridget, let our listeners, let everyone know how to find us.
Yeah. So you can, so we have our Instagram site at backseat.thriver. We have our YouTube at backseatthriver.com or Backseat Thriver. And then we have our website at backseatthriver.com. So, and then you can send us emails, connect with us, send us photos at connect@backseatthriver.com.
That's right. And thank you, LTD Media. Be sure to download the LTD Media app and awesome content. So thank you guys for listening. We will see you next Friday at 10.